This video is about an enclosure I just built for my new D1 XTool laser, and I figured I'll start with the end of the video first and show you how it came out, because I know not everybody watches to the end. But when I decided to build an enclosure for it, I wanted to try to keep it really nice and sleek and really good looking to go with the design and keep it as minimalistic as I could. And this is what I came up with. It's a tight fitting enclosure that's actually attached to the laser. I did void the warranty on the laser while making this, I will say. And you can see I've added a cable chain in there and also air assist and a Honeycomb Grid, and the rotary is in there also. You don't see it right now, but it has one of the newest AC Infinity fans that just came out on it. So it's I think I did a really good job on it. I'm really happy with how it came out, and I just wanted to share this with you. There you can see the nice AC Infinity fan, and there's little plastic vents that raise up if you want to put long boards through the sides, and it still does the same feature as without it in the enclosure. And the honeycomb, I've got that made the best honeycomb mounted in there, and it's permanently mounted. And then there's a little maple panel that you pull out, and buried down in there is the actual rotary assembly. Now this sits up on a lab jack. You can see it's a little 4x4 lab jack that moves it up and down parallel, so I can actually squeeze about a 5-inch diameter by a foot long item on there now, and I can actually just jack it up when I want to use it. And it's all has no slip neoprene on everything, so I can just push it to the front, and there it is, all squared up, and it's all ready to use like that. So I wanted to get the the rotary hidden in here too, so that would be out of the way and always easily to access. And when you're done with it, all you have to do is just crank that lab jack down a little bit, and it backs down in there, and no problem. It's just hidden out of the way, and it'll stay clean, and should stay good down there. And then this panel just snaps right in there. You can see it's got raised corners on it now, and it just fits in there nice and tight. And that's basically it. So now I'm going to show some of the build. I know not everybody sticks around for that. I'm not going to get too fancy with it, but this is how it all started out. I decided to make some side panels that would be tight fitting to the unit. So I came up with the design of the side panel out of cardboard first. Then I took and I transferred it over to my CNC router because I had to make 2 of them, so I figured that would be the easiest way to duplicate them. And this is a fun machine to use, and that Masso controller really does work good. I love that thing. So there's the first one all cut out, ready to go. I'm going to match it up. There's the cardboard template that I started with, and like I said, I always start out with cardboard first before I cut any material. So the first one was good, and then I had another piece of material. I'm getting down to the straps now, and you can see this one had some laser burns in it, some damage to it, but I decided I could clean that up later anyway, so I'm just going to run it and do the second one there, and just watch the piece make itself here. And it does take a couple passes around with this MDF here, and there's the side panels basically put in place, and that's how it all starts out. And then from here I'm going to start filling in the dots in between everything. And you can see they're about as tight fitting as I can get everything to fit in there right now. And I did put the power supply up in the back there to get it out of the way. And then I ran out of lumber, so I had to go to Home Depot, and I bought a sheet of MDF and a sheet of plywood. I can't believe this MDF is almost 50 bucks a sheet now, and the same with 1/2-inch plywood. But I do love this Makita track saw. It really makes it easy to break down this stuff. I did have Home Depot cut it in half, but still I like to break it down a little more so I can carry it downstairs easy. I take this out in the garage, and I think the only thing better than this track saw would be if I had gotten the one with the batteries, so you could just take it to Home Depot with you and do this in the parking lot and leave all the sawdust there. But basically it's really a wonderful tool for this kind of stuff. So now I've got my materials and back down in the shop, and I do have a test piece of plastic there to show you how the cover is going to go there. Then I had to patch up those bad spots in this one side panel. And you can see it's just, I use just a putty. And it's just a water putty that I've used this stuff. I think I got this can about 1970 and I've used it ever since. You just mix it with a little bit of water and it hardens up to a wood-like texture there. It's really great for just filling in, you know, any kind of wood that you're going to paint over. So I got that all filled in and sanded down, and now it's time to start breaking some of the corners on these pieces. And you can see I did grab one of those Milwaukee M18 fuel routers, battery-powered routers for Black Friday special. And boy, I love that little thing. I should have bought one of these years ago. These Milwaukee tools are just so smooth, and you know, they really run good and very powerful. And it's really a nice little tool to have. And I never realized how nice it would be to get rid of the cords when you're doing stuff like this, but it really is. I'm just going to start breaking any of the corners where surfaces don't match together. And then it's time to break down those parts for the cross parts on the box. Yeah, you can see with the dust collector on the table saw it collects that MDF dust pretty good, because that's really nasty stuff. And there, I just cross cut them. And you know, I'm so glad I switched this Incra mitered sled over to all this Craig stuff. It just makes it so easy and so safe to use now. And it's, you know, really quick. So I got all those parts cut, and you know, as with everything, I'm just gonna kind of fit them together before I start doing any gluing and make any adjustments that are required. So you know, I do got them adjusted, and then I started gluing the parts up, and you can see you can never have enough clamps. And just had to make sure that everything lined up perfect and stuff there before I did the main glue up. And you can see there's also holes I've included in everything for all the adjustments that you need to do, because once this is in the enclosure, it's still going to need, you know, belt tensioning and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that I did have access to them. And then it's time to start gluing up, and get a little glue on there and get the sides glued together. And I did go back through all the glue joints, and I added some 16 gauge 1.5" finish nails, brads in there. And you know, that should give it enough strength. It really won't see much force. And now I start voiding the warranty. I'm drilling and tapping into the sides of the XTool there, the D1. I drilled 3M4 and tapped them on each side of the unit to mount this. And you see everything just fits perfect in there. And I got a cable chain there, and that's where it had to go due to cable lengths, you can see. And everything is, you know, just starting to come together now. And just got to do some fine sanding next. And a little more fitting. And then I did sneak in an air assist on this build. And there's a bracketry for the cabling. And that's where I had to put it. I wish the cables were a little longer so I could have run it in the other direction, but I had to lay it horizontal like that. But it doesn't seem to affect the operation of it, so everything looks good. And the only thing I had to do is extend the X motor cable. But the main one did work. So once I knew everything was, you know, real close to fit together and I had it glued up and sanded, I decided to go through and do the final radiuses on all the outsides and all the mating joints and stuff. And again, I love this little router. It really does work good, and it's well balanced, and did come with dust collection and stuff that I haven't tried yet, but you know, I really can't wait to use this a little more. So I got that all cleaned up, sanded, and now it's time to start putting some of my orange paint on. This is that can I bought about 2 years ago. I'm still using, and it you know, goes on nice. It's Sherwood-Williams and does a good job. And while that's drying, I'm starting on the cover for it. And this Lexan that I have, the only way that I can really get a good cut on it is to cut it with a jigsaw and then go back and machine it later with the router using an edge guide in a real low speed. And then over to the router table. I have to put the V in the back of it. In order to bend this up, it's like 0.177 thick. In order to bend it, you have to cut a V in it half of the way through it, and then you can cold form it. Otherwise, you have to have a big heating element hot form it. So I'm just going to set up the router here to for the distance I need to make it fit, and just I've got a flat bottom V cutter. It's got about a 0.06 flat on the bottom of it that I use for this, and I'm just going to put a V right across there that'll let me take it outside and bend it in my little sheet metal grate that I've got. So there's the groove, and now I can cold form it at the angle that I want. So I took it outside and came back in, and there's what it looks like. Real easy to bend once you cut it down to half the thickness. And then I ordered a brand new one of the AC Infinity Cloud line, the new lightweight ones. This is a less expensive than the original one. It weighs a lot less, and it's mostly molded plastic, and it's really nice. I think it's got 10-speed controller, and I think I got one of the first ones available. They're a brand new product now. I wanted to try it, and so now that I've got that, I got some measurements, and I was able to locate the hole in the top. And then the hole, so I drilled a little bit oversized hole, so I just took some 1/16 weather stripping and put it around there to, make a good seal and prevent vibration. And there you can see I built a little bracket there to hold the fan in place once I got everything located. And trying to cover here for the first time to make sure it's going to fit. See, it fits in there really nice. I got really lucky bending that one, and then I put a hinge on it, and the hinge is brass, but I had to paint it black later. And there you can see everything's together, and now it's time to start on the top for the frame that this is going to sit on. So again, that track saw, I got it out and cut my piece out, and then I finished up putting the second coat of paint on here. And actually there were some sags and runs and stuff, so I wound up having to sand it down and put a third coat on some of it also. Then over to the router, I had to cut some side panels there to kind of block off those openings where the longer boards can go in. And when I switched over to bit for this, I put the wrong bit in, I realized. I put in a straight 2-flute bit, where I should have put in a spiral bit, so you can see the cuts on it are really crummy right at this point. But I let it run anyway just to see if I could deburr it, but turned out I couldn't in the end. So you really have to be careful which bits you choose when you're cutting plastic. It can be a beast to cut plastic. So I wound up switching over to a 4-flute upcut type bit. And there you can see the results are coming out much better now. So, that's how clean the cuts come out when you get the right bit. So, the bits do make a big difference when you're dealing with CNC. And here, I'm going to try sliding it together for the first time since everything's finished. And pretty much line-to-line fit going in there. You can see everything just kind of fits perfect and goes in there. And really does go together. Nice tight package. And then it's time to start cutting out that top for the frame. I have to put an opening in the center of it there for the rotary to go down in. And then just cut out some of the mounting holes for it. And then cut the outline out. And why did I size that, really close for the blank when I cut it. You can see I just barely missed the clamps I got on there. But, luckily I did have just barely enough material, so next time I'll have to learn to leave a little bit of extra material when I cut out a blank. But the CNC router does a good job on stuff like this, and you can see the temperature holds really good on the spindle. That whole cooling system that I came up with in the extrusion there really does work good. And this does make, jobs really easy to do, and the Masso controller is really wonderful. So I got that cut out and ready to go, and now it's time to make the box for the bottom of it. And there you can see there the rotary that's going to go in this box here. It's going to recess down into the frame. So I just cut some MDF, and then I went back and got it all sized up and glued it all together. And nope, you can never have enough clamps. And then I dragged out the can of gray paint that I've been using on everything also, and time to paint this top. A couple coats of gray on it up on the top and bottom of it. Then I needed some brackets to keep the Honeycomb Grid from slipping around and locate it. And I wanted to make sure it was square so I could use the corner of it to reference off of. I had some half-inch plastic that I don't even know what type of plastic it is. This stuff's probably like 40 years old laying around. And I decided to, just cut some brackets out of it. And the CNC router really does a good job on this stuff once you get the settings down and the right bit on it. So there's my corner brackets. Just have to peel the paper on those couple up and clean them up. And then I wanted some spacers to space it up a little bit off the bottom. And there's one of these under each corner of the frame, so I just had another piece of plastic. I decided to cut them out just to try and see how this plastic here cut. And again, they came out nice and clean and, looking good. And this is how they're going to go together. You've got the corner locator and then the spacer that's going to go onto the four corners of the Honeycomb Grid. And then for the to hide the rotary, I just have a piece of maple plywood top that I made there that fits right in place flush. And now I got to locate where the Honeycomb Grid goes, so I'm just going to set this laser on top of there. You can see it is a separate piece if you want to, sit it over on something else. And get everything all lined up and then go back and position the honeycomb where I want it. And then I'll just pick this top off and screw the corners in. I'm using those Armor Tool pocket hole screws here. I like the collars of them. And I'm just going to mount in these corner blocks. And it turns out that grid's not perfectly square, so I put the squarest corner down to the front, and the rest of these locators are just put tight up against it so it'll hold it in place. And it'll be spaced up so there'll be some airflow under it also. And then for the rotary, I have a little lab jack under it, and I'm making a block to set on top of the lab jack here. And this is going to have a neoprene pad on to keep the roller from actually being able to slip around. I had some old neoprene, and I'm just going to stick it on this block of MDF and trim it back with a razor later. For lighting, I always use these little LED strips. I used to have double wide extrusions, but for this one I ran out of them, and I had to use two single wide ones super glued together to get a wider, double row. And they're easy to put together, and they last forever, and they're cheap to use, and they really do a good job of lighting up something like this. So those little extrusions with that diffuser on it really do make it a nice even light and spread it out good. Then I needed a front panel, and I wanted to keep that nice and clean looking and not cluttering anything up, so I decided to make that out of clear plastic too. And again, I'm over at the CNC router, which really makes things like this easier. And this will go in the bottom. I have to actually add a couple taps on the legs. Then for the air assist, I drilled an angled hole through that shield, and I epoxied in a .06 16 gauge needle from a syringe in there, and that's aimed right at the focal point of the laser there, and that'll be my air assist, and that's plumbed up out to my air line, my compressor. And then I cut some stickers for it up on the Cameo 3, and stickers always make everything look a little better. And you can see pretty much how everything's gone together here, and everything's as clean as I could keep it and as simplistic as I could keep it. The cable chain, like I said, the cable was limited where that could be. I would rather have it the other way, but I couldn't. And, you know, I do have full travel over the Honeycomb Grid now. And I do have my adjustment for my air assist there. And to turn it on and off right now, I'm just using an old valve. But once I have this located in place, I'm going to put a solenoid on it with 12 volts. And there you can see the, you know, the switch is accessible. All the cabling and stuff is easily accessible. And those plastic shields can be raised to put a long board in it. And all the adjustments on it are accessible. Everything, you know, should be easy to maintain and keep adjusted. And just want to make sure that if you, you know, do something like this, that you don't block them off. And put a little sticker on the back there too. And I've got that AC Infinity foil line duct I'm going to be using. And once I move this over in place, you can see the wiring's all cleaned up there too. But once I move this over in place, I'm going to tee it into the other duct I've got going through the window there. So that's what, you know, the T is going to be putting in line. So after that, I'll be able to show you how this works out. But looks like it's really going to work good from what I'm seeing. So I just thought I'd kind of show you how I thought this through and how I started out with a, you know, piece of cardboard template just to get the shape of what was required for everything to clear and stuff, and to keep it as minimal as I could. And then this is what it turned out by, you know, just piecing in between the two sides there. And real happy with the way it came out. It does look great, and it goes really good with the D1, I think. Hopefully some of these ideas will help you out a little bit if you decide to make an enclosure for your D1. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.